I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. This is Beyond the Smoke with Thomas Ward, who is also for the people.
So today we welcome Mr. John Morgan. Thank you for taking the time to come in to Beyond the Smoke. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
You've created the largest, now you put it in all your advertising, the largest injury law firm in the world, basically.
In the world, right.
How did you start?
My brother got hurt when I was in college.
Okay.
We were poor people. We didn't know our way around. And he was paralyzed from the chin down. And through that process, there's a lot of things that happened to him and to our family that I got to see. He didn't really have the best representation. At the end of the day, where he got hurt was Disney World. They were tough on him. Mm-hmm. They were really tough. They fought him like he was a enemy. And through that whole process, through my frustration of being hopeless and helpless and powerless, I became enraged. And I said, I know what I'm going to do with my life, and I'm going to come back and represent people like Tim. And so that's where it began, was that day. And so when I went to law school, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I tell people that there's good luck and bad luck. And Tim's bad luck turned out to be my good luck because it gave me passion and purpose for the rest of my life. And when you have passion and purpose, work doesn't become work. Work becomes a crusade.
Your life.
Yes, and you have a righteous purpose. And I was offered a lot of jobs when I was at the University of Florida. I was president of this organization called Florida Blue Key. So I had a lot of job offers in these big silk stocking law firms. And I turned them all down because I wanted to do personal injury. And so I would say it began then. It began during Tim's accident and the rehab and all that went into legal. And so then I started here in Orlando with a guy named Jerry Billings in 1982.
Was that business a large part of the law business? Because it was mostly business to business, right?
Personal injury?
Yeah.
It was always, the thing about personal injury is you don't charge by the hour. So sure. A lot of people shy away from it, especially exclusively cash flow. Mm-hmm. Because of contingency, you lose and you don't. But on the other hand, when you win, you can win really big. So, but it didn't matter to me. Whatever it was, I wasn't focused on money. I was focused on doing what I wanted to do. And I also have found in life, when you set out to make money, you usually don't. When you set out to make a difference,
I agree.
You do. Whether it's, in your case, making a great barbecue, having a great environment, whatever it is, when you set out that way, not thinking necessarily, but when you set out thinking, I'm going to have 1,000 stores and I'm going to make this much, then you never make money. Yeah. You got to build that one store that's so great that it becomes Carrabba's. And then somebody comes in and buys your concept. Mm-hmm. That's how it happens. You don't set up thinking you're going to build Carrabba's. You're just building one Carrabba in Houston, Texas.
That's the mistake I think I made. When I originally opened, I always had that mentality, like I want to build 100 of these instead of focusing on the one.
You were trying to franchise before you had the I remember when, we were talking about before the show when Mary was looking at your deal. Yeah, you had visions of grandeur,
right?
Which is good, but the way I've always operated is I'm building this one business, this one thing, to be the best.
Right.
And if something happens from that,
Great.
it's great. If not, this ain't a bad life either.
So you go and start working in an injury law firm. You serve your time, right?
I didn't serve much time. I was there for a couple of years, and they came up for my review, and they gave me one review, and I told them that I thought they were off by a lot. And then I told them, listen, I can't stay because you're telling me I'm worth this, and I'm telling you I'm worth that.
Mm-hmm.
And either you're wrong or I'm wrong or I'm a blowhard. And I said, I've only been here 2 years, but I'm the star here. And they were trying to tell me there was 3 or 4 lawyers that I was behind in the pecking order.
Okay.
And I told them, I said, look, and I love Jerry, and I said, look, if I wanted to do pecking order, I'd have joined the JAG Corps. I'd have gone to the military. I'm a capitalist, and I said I'm not just any lawyer. And I told him, I said, listen, you're going to find later in life that this is the biggest mistake
you've ever made
because you're losing a superstar. And then I went and started my own firm. A week after my review.
Really?
And, there were some other people in the firm. The guy that hired me, Jerry Billings, he's almost 90 now. But once a year, I take him, before COVID, once a year I take him to lunch and thank him for hiring me out of law school.
Right out of law school. It's crazy.
Yeah.
He took the chance.
He took the chance.
Yeah. You have to always be appreciative of those people that always take a chance on it.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
I have the same situation with a friend of mine that lent me the money to start my food truck in 2011.
Yeah.
Sold his car, gave me the money to open the food truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't forget it.
You can't. You can't. Those people took chances on you.
Yeah.
And they came out right. I mean, for you,
yeah.
You were a superstar. He he didn't know it at the time when he hired you, but
he didn't know it, but I knew it.
You knew it. How did you feel in that transition? You're leaving this law firm, you're opening your own, now you're becoming your own boss. Were you scared? I
wasn't scared because I'd already been out for 2 years. I lived and breathed developing business. I lived in union halls and dive bars. I'd go to plumbers and pipe fitters and bricklayers and hotel motel and go to their meetings and then go cocktail with them and play shuffleboard and throw darts. So I was generating tons of business.
Okay.
So I wasn't scared about that. I was probably more scared about, am I going to be able to, execute, try the cases, because I didn't get the best training at that law firm.
You didn't?
No. My first trial was down there by myself in Sanford, and you're like, what am I doing?
Say?
Yeah, what am I doing? What am I doing here? And most times in law, you have a period where you follow somebody around and you learn. And I was just down there, by myself.
How did you learn? Did you start just reading?
You just go in there and, sometimes you make mistakes and it's embarrassing. And it's just like riding a bike. You fall off the bike and then you get back on the bike and then you fall off the bike. And you get back on the bike, and then you don't fall off the bike anymore. But you might still be a little wobbly on the bike, and then you're not wobbly on the bike, and then all of a sudden you're hauling ass on the bike.
So now you're a small firm. You started probably. How many lawyers did you have when you start?
I went to one of my guys, the guy I went to law school with. We had a case together at that time, and I said, "Why don't we start our own firm?" And he said, let's do it. And then he worked for a guy who was much senior to us, and he went back and told that guy that he was going to leave. And that guy, who was, 50-something, said, why are you leaving? Who you leaving with? Told him about me. And he goes, I want to leave too. I'll go with you guys.
Really?
Got this older guy who was experienced trying cases, and so the three of us started a firm like that.
How was that experience?
It was good because, I was over here in this building, the same one I'm still in, and I was 28, 29, whatever, and I'd sublet some unbelievable office, unbelievable office. Furniture was like out of the movies, and here I am in there, 28 years old with my own firm. So that was kind of good and neat. We had the older guy who could help us. He was a good trial lawyer, so it was a great experience. Over time, I went out and got a lot of people who were advertising on TV to send me their cases and say, "Look, if you can't resolve them, we'll try them, we'll work them, we'll do it." And I saw how well that was working for them, advertising, because back in those days, good lawyers didn't advertise. It was kind of bullshit lawyers that advertised. But I saw what was going on inside those firms. I saw the amount of business they were getting. The guys I was partners with were very conservative. Terry represented the Republican Party of Florida. So the idea of advertising, he didn't want that.
Off the books,
No go. On the other hand, I was in my 20s or so. Well, I guess I'd almost turned 30 by the time I started talking about breaking up and with him. And they didn't want to advertise, and I did. And so we agreed to disagree. And I said, "Look, I see this train is leaving this station. I can see it clearly. You're worried about what people are going to think about you at the university club. I don't."
Right.
And so we said goodbye to each other, and I took one of our associates from that firm, and I brought him with me, and that's how it started.
Was that an oh-shit moment for you at that point?
It wasn't really, because it's always about the vision. And I wrote another book called You Can't Teach Vision. There's something called vision. Everybody calls visionaries. Visionaries are nothing, because most visionaries never act on their vision. Mm-hmm. You call Bill Gates a visionary. Yes, he is, obviously. But there's more visionaries that never acted on their vision. There are vision makers. And to get to your vision, you have to get past a lot of vision blockers, yourself included. Mm-hmm. Fear, fright, people telling you don't do it. What do you know? You're only 29. So you got all these vision blockers that are coming at you, including yourself. You can also be your own biggest vision blocker.
I think we typically are.
And we are, because it's easy to say, okay, because failure.
We look good.
Well, yeah, we're okay. I don't need this second. I don't need this. But and most people just surrender to the vision blocker, and they never do it. So it wasn't hard for me, because I knew what had to be done. It's like I told people, it was like they say these baseball players see the baseball coming down the pike, and they can see it clearly, and it seems to be moving slower to them, and that's why they're able to hit it. That's how that was to me about television marketing and the legal. I saw it so clearly that I couldn't have these two vision blockers who are nice people, not at the age of 30 years old. I looked forward and I go, this is my whole life.
I have my chance, yeah.
This is my whole life. And I remember telling my wife, this train is leaving the station, and either I can get on it or not get on it. And it's going to be an unbelievable opportunity, because most lawyers won't advertise on TV, and the ones who could afford it won't, and the ones who would can't afford it. And I really couldn't afford too much. I mean, when I started my first year, I spent $100,000 that year.
That was a lot back then.
It seemed like it. And
what year is that?
88.
88.
When I first went on television. Well, yeah, 88. And, you know, but they made me pay, you know, COD because I had no credit.
Do you think that's the best $100,000 you ever invested?
No question.
It started generating leads?
Yeah, I started, you know, I mean, I look back, the ads were crummy. I mean, I didn't even have makeup on. I'd go down and cut the ads like at 5 in the afternoon after being at work all day with a, you know, sort of a little beard popping up from being up since 6.
Okay.
But yeah, and it worked, and it worked. But I still kept running parallel paths. I was advertising, but I was still out there in the streets
talking to people.
With the union, talking to people. I mean, I ran parallel paths. I didn't just sit there and go, hey, we're going to do well with these ads. I was still out there in those union halls, heavy.
So you considered always to be part of the people?
Back in those days, before advertising, union presidents and union stewards and business managers, they controlled a lot in that union.
Power, yeah.
So somebody would get hurt, they go to the business manager, the president, and say, what should we do? What should I do? And they say, go to this guy, go to this girl, go to this, you know. So I spent a lot of time cultivating those relationships with those leaders in unions.
Do you feel that's lost in business? Because I feel that's lost now. People creating that camaraderie and that
it's not lost on me. At Morgan & Morgan, I have 20, that nobody has this, I have 20 full-time salespeople who do nothing but call on law firms, medical providers, unions every day.
Okay.
Now, I can't do it like I used to.
Right.
But
you used to go.
I was the one making the calls.
Mm-hmm.
But now I have a team, 20 salespeople, that I have them logged in on Salesforce, and every day we get a report on, you know.
You feel that gives you, well, the advertising plays a bigger role into your company now, but do you feel that helps, that sales team?
I think that sales team will generate for me this year 50,000 new clients.
Wow. That's crazy.
But you got to spend, you know, it's a lot of payroll. And some of these people are not, you know,
cheap.
No.
They're not cheap.
No. But nobody does that. Nobody has a sales force that goes out and does what my sales force does.
And that's effective. The cold calling has always been effective.
There's only so many hours in the day, you know, and you can't get to all of it. And so that's why I hired these salespeople, and they go out and they meet and they tell the firm's story and the success and who we are and what we are and why do business with us.
So you allow them to go out and go into activities and stuff like that, or
that's what they're paid to do.
Oh, really? Okay. So it's not only phone, it's you know, get into the.
There's no phone.
No phone.
They're just going out and meeting people.
Oh, wow. Yeah, nobody's doing that. But you build most of your clientele through that.
Well, you could, but that's, you know, I mean, look.
No, you did that.
I did in the beginning.
Yeah.
In the beginning, you know, on Fridays, I would get up every Friday for many years. I'd get a lunch set like in Sanford, Florida. I knew I had lunch with you, for example, but then I'd get there at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'd just go around to law firms, knocking on doors and introducing myself and saying, look, here's who I am, this is what I do, who are you sending your business to. You know, my wife used to say, you know, I don't even know how you are able to do that, how you're able to, because sometimes people would come out like, you know, what are you doing here?
Sure.
But what I was doing there was getting business, and I got a lot of business that way. I mean, I got a ton of business cold calling law firms on Fridays. And one time I called on one guy, Abbott Herring, and he'd been the state attorney, and he'd had a falling out with his the firm that sent him business. So I said, well, who do you send your business to? And he said, well, I used to send it to blah, 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 but we haven't sent them for a long time. I said, why? Because these referring law firms, you pay them a referral fee. He goes, I got fucked on a referral fee. And so what have you been doing with the cases? He said, we've just been holding them here. And I pulled out of that building with like 100 cases.
No way. Wow.
I'd bought myself a Nissan Maxima with the leather package and sunroof. And when I left there, that Nissan Maxima was like tilted up like this. I had to open the sunroof because the files were going so high. And I went home, and it was Friday afternoon. I told my wife, I said, well, I had a big one today. 100 cases in the Nissan Maxima with the leather package.
So you lost your fear of rejection, which is a lot of people have that.
Before I went to law school, I sold Yellow Pages for 18 months. I was probably one of the best Yellow Page sellers ever.
That's what it was.
I made, the one full year I worked, this is back in the 70s, I made like almost 90 grand selling Yellow Pages at age 21.
Holy shit.
So I was a monster when I got in front of somebody. So I never saw it as rejection when you could, sometimes people were kind of dismissive of you, but I'd look at them like, who the fuck are you? The reason you're sitting here in this bullshit deal is because you're not doing what I'm doing.
Sure.
So I never took, it was always water off a duck's back, because I knew the law of averages was going to be in my favor, and I also knew nobody
was doing
what I was doing. And so sometimes there were some people, what are you doing here? Is this appropriate? Are you allowed to do this? I'm, oh, yeah. I just play dumb, and I just think to myself, you stupid motherfucker. yeah, I'm allowed to do this.
Yeah. I lost my fear of rejection, too, at 21 doing cold calling with real estate. I was doing real estate right out of college. And it was just calling and calling and calling. People would say no, and they were like, why are you calling at 7 in the morning? Because I'm trying to fucking sell your house.
Yeah.
That's why I'm trying.
Exactly.
Nobody else is calling you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it did. It drove leads. At that time, it was the downturn of the market. I don't know who was creating.
Yeah, if you don't ask, you don't get.
How was your wife feeling when you took that jump and that leap into going by yourself? She already knew you were generating a bunch of sales, right?
Yeah, she knew, but my wife was a lawyer at Ackerman Centerfit. She's much brighter than me. She's, was top of her class, and she was at Ackerman Centerfit. She's a securities and banking lawyer. So we also had the good fortune of her having a good job.
Right.
And to her credit, she was 110% behind me. Yeah. She believed in me. And that made it easier. I did not have, a lot of times the wife or the husband can be the vision blocker.
Mm-hmm.
And she was not a vision blocker. She was the opposite of a vision blocker.
She pushed you.
She felt that I should have been paid more, and that my deal was wrong. And so she was, we got married in the day we got graduated from law school. So we had kids like right away. So we had, that financial pressure too of a bunch of children.
Right. And you just went out and hustled. So 88.
Makes you hustle more.
Yeah. Pressure to hustle more. Yeah.
When you look at those little babies,
they need to eat.
They got to eat, and you're the guy that's got to make it happen. You and your wife, you get up and do what you got to do.
Yeah, that's what happened with my dad too. He had three daughters right away, and it was like
you get up in the morning, you look at those little beds, and you're like, they're counting on me to have a great life, and so I got to go do that.
Mm-hmm.
It made it really easy.
Made it really easy to go out, right? and get rejected.
Yeah, because you got to take care of them. You got to give them the life you hope you can give them.
Sure. 88, you start your firm, you start advertising, you start seeing results. What happens in the growth? You saw the vision, right? You are a vision guy. You are doing it.
I'm doing it.
And how did the growth go?
The growth started really doing well in Orlando, and I call it the teacup. I was like, at a certain point, I worried that you can get to diminishing returns. Like, no matter how much more I do here in Orlando, the tea is going to pour over the teacup, and I need to take another cup and go catch tea. And so I said, let's go try Tampa out. And then we went over, started in Tampa, and then we went to Jacksonville, and then we went to Naples. So every time I felt like that my teacups were getting as full as they could be in that one market, I'd take another teacup and go to another market, and then another market, and then another market, and then another market. And
right now you cover nationally, or what? Mostly the East Coast.
We're in L.A. We're in Denver. We have a lawyer in every state.
You do.
Big operations. So we have a big operation in Phoenix, big operation and huge operation in L.A.
Really?
And Boston, Philly, well, everywhere. I mean, D.C.
When did you make a decision to go national that you saw?
There's visions, and then there's what they call BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goals. These are visions that are not just, they're just gigantic. Just gigantic. And one of them was, the vision that came to me was, what would Google do if Google was a law firm? So I started asking myself that question. The answer that ultimately came back was, Google would be everywhere for everyone. They would have a platform in the whole United States. They would bring business in. They would keep some of the business, but they would refer a whole lot out.
Okay.
Take referral fees. And they would try to do what these disrupting companies do, like Uber and Airbnb and Google, and they try to dominate that space. And so that was the vision in 2009. I had to find the person because I'm not a technical guy. Math is not my,
forte.
Programming, and I finally found the guy, and then we were able to execute my vision. And so the vision came in 2009, the Google law firm. We had to, at the end of the day, we had to build our own software, because all these people we were referring business to, we wanted them to be able to talk to us, and we wanted to be able to refer them, and there was no product, so I built my own software called Litify. Last year, Tiger Fund invested $50 million in it at a 20% stake.
Wow.
And so we built Litify, and that has allowed me to do what I want to do with the Google law firm. And so I have all these assets. I have ClassAction.com. I have Abogados.com. I mean, we have 150 people in a call center in El Salvador just for
Spanish
speaking. Yeah. I have, forthepeople.com. I have another domain that I'm getting ready to launch nationally called Injury.com. I have Pound Law. So I have all these assets that I thought that Google, if you were the Google law firm, that you'd have to have. And so what I've been doing.
You bought other names too, didn't you?
I buy a lot of names.
You buy names too.
Yeah,
I've seen that.
HurricaneLawyer.com or whatever.
Didn't you buy Johnny Cochran?
Well, Johnny Cochran, I became his partner. He came to me for his marketing, and
no way.
So I was partners with him, and I was a pallbearer at his funeral.
Wow.
And that was another, that was kind of a side business to my business. And but a tremendous trip with that guy.
Yeah, interesting guy, right?
Oh,
I bet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So marketing then became your forte, do you want to say?
I would say so. I say marketing became my forte. All these things that you see, there were no lawyers really in phone books. I did that because I'd sold Yellow Pages. There was nobody on the back covers. I went and bought. Back covers were given away for free to like Disney and SeaWorld. And I went to those guys I used to work with and for, and I said, "Hey, I'll buy your back cover." And they're like, "Why would you do that?" I said, "Well, I got an idea." And they, "Well, what do you want to pay for it?" And I negotiated some really low price. My thinking was, if somebody picks up the book,
turns it around.
Well, there's a 50-50 chance if you pick up a book, you're going to see the front or the back. Mm-hmm. And if I can get 50% of the time that people are going to see me and never open the book. So I was the first lawyer that advertised in phone books. I was the first lawyer that was on billboards. I was the first lawyer on radio, on cab tops, on buses. And now it's, everybody's doing it.
Looking back at the company that you've built, I was reading this book, Shoe Dog, for the founder of Nike. And, when he sits down and looks back at the company he's built, how do you feel?
And the reason that Phil Knight and the whole Nike story is so amazing is because the vision maker must be relentless.
Mm-hmm. He was.
He was a real. I mean, those trips to the Far East was just, he got knocked down and had Tiger, and you got to be willing to get knocked down, get back up, get knocked down, get back up. You got to be. You had to be, and so. But the way I feel about it is, it's hard to believe. But on the other hand, I really couldn't explain it because a lot of it was just like coming to an intersection, going left instead of right. But I don't know why I went left. I just went left.
Mm-hmm. And it worked.
And it worked. If I had to go back and say, replicate it, I don't know if I could. I don't know if I would. Because I might have go left. If you go left, you can walk off a cliff just because life is luck. A lot of times we take so much credit because we love to pat ourselves on the back, and we don't think about the luck component and what happened to us. And because we don't think about the luck component, there's so many people that think that they're smarter than they are, but they're not really that smart. They just got really lucky. And I was lucky because I was at a time where nobody was advertising. The way I've explained it to people is like I was the fullback, and we were on the 20, and there was like 8 yards to go, and they did a trick play and did a draw to me, the fullback. And all of a sudden I've got the ball, but nobody's expecting me to have the ball, and all of a sudden I'm at the 30, I'm at the 40, I'm at the 50, I'm at the 60. All of a sudden this play, because they didn't, because I was lucky enough to really not have that competition, all of a sudden I'm looking around and I'm rambling down the field as a fullback because nobody was watching me or paying attention to me. And so I got lucky at that time. If Bill Gates was born today, he could never be Bill Gates. Never. If you're born just another
generation,
month, another generation, 2 years, whatever, so people that have to start and compete now, that you can, it's possible because people do and do well. But so I look at it all and go, I can't really explain the formula because it was like I was cooking, not off a recipe, but I was just in the kitchen grabbing spices and shaking shit.
To see if it worked.
Yeah, and tasting it, and tasting the gravy and seeing if it worked. So I don't really have a map to all this. So I would say the way I look at it all is that I'm amazed.
Would you say your vision was strong, but my dad always relates it to being a mouse and, you know, in the trap, and then you move and then you go right and then you're trying to look for the exit, and it's always trying to, you know, move and shake to get to the ultimate goal. But
yeah, you got to go left or right.
Right.
And sometimes you just, you know, go left, and it works out that all of a sudden you're outside the maze, your dad's maze, and you're like, the problem with that is a lot of people that go through the maze and get out, they think they're a genius, and that emboldens them, and then you put them in another maze, and they die in the maze. And you know, there's a great book called Who Moved My Cheese, and the whole story is that, you know, you get complacent and the cheese is always there, and every day you come out and the cheese is always there, and people just start thinking, oh, the cheese is always going to be there. And one day you come out and the cheese is not there, and the next day you come and the cheese is not there. Well, what most people do is they just stay there and die there,
waiting for the cheese
to come to them. You have to go to the cheese.
Yeah.
You have to get in the maze. You have to run fast and run in the dark, and you have to go left and go the wrong way left, and then come back and then go right. But you keep running, and if you're relentless, then one day you find not only more cheese, but better cheese.
True. Are you happy your boys are in the business?
100%. Well, you know, some days when I'm here, my day can end with, because my daughter's got a structured settlement company, my days can end because all their offices are in this building down here. Some days my day can end with all of my children with me in my office. Well, what father
doesn't want that?
Doesn't want that.
Right. Well, some fathers don't want their kids to suffer and go through what, you know, they've had to go through.
I don't want them to do that either, but also, you know, my children, I never got them, you know, I used to see these rich people buying their kids, you know, cars and spoiling them, and they didn't have to work. One Christmas, I owned this chain of amusement places called Wonderworks, and one Christmas, I said, when are you guys going to start going to work? And Mike said, nobody at Bishop Moore is working over Christmas. And I go, that's just not true. And Matt says, no, it is true, Daddy. Nobody's working. I mean, I don't know anybody that's working that goes to Bishop Moore. I said, I know that's not true. And they both yell, yes, it is. I said, it's not true because you two motherfuckers are working. And you go to Bishop Moore. And so I know that to be false. And so I said, the good news for you all is you get to pick your hours, but you just got to pick your 40. You can work 8 to 5, or you can work 12 to 9, or you can work, but pick your 40 hours, and you don't have to work on Christmas, and you don't have to work on Christmas Eve. And that's, you know, the advantage.
They hate you for that?
They didn't want to work, but they had to work. I don't know. But I knew what I was doing.
Right.
I knew that they had to work. And when you look back and when I look at some of their friends and what they turned out to be, so, you know, I made sure that they studied hard. They all, you know, I used to tell them, you know, B's are your enemies. Can't make B's. So they studied hard. They all did well in school. Mm-hmm. They all worked. I mean, I had to fire Dan at Wonderworks because he was a big fuck off out there. And then when he got fired, I told him, you got to go get a job. And I said, you can't leave the house unless you're going to school or going to find a job or going to work.
Where did he go work?
He got a job at Boston Market, and then he would come home, and he said that he was supposed to be cooking chicken or roast beef, and he said he was bitching because they had him as a dishwasher. And I said, well, Dan, he said, I'm going to quit. I said, no, you're not. And he said, it smells like vomit in the dishwashing room. I said, think about that, Dan. You're such a valuable employee that they don't even trust you cooking the fucking chicken. And you're the last guy in that whole totem pole, and you're the dishwasher at Boston Market. And then in a fit of anger, he quit Boston Market. And he came home and said, I couldn't take it anymore, Daddy. I said, hey, it's fine with me. You just can't leave the house unless you're going to look for a job or going to school. I said, don't plan on going anywhere without a job. And then he got a job at Firehouse Sub and became one of the great sub makers of all time at Firehouse Sub.
I need to meet Dan.
Dan can make a steamer.
My dad fired me.
Your dad fired you? Yeah.
He fired me. I started working when I was 13, and after I left real estate, I went to work for him in the supermarket business, and he fired me because I was too ambitious. I tried to buy a supermarket with no money.
Well, I fired Dan because he would go off for lunch and not come back.
Different reasoning.
Different reasoning. I was like, I don't need you.
Yeah.
I need somebody to run the bubble room. I don't need you to be lounging at lunch.
Nowadays, he's a lawyer, no?
Dan's he's in trial right now. He's in trial in Lake County right this moment.
Is he?
Yeah.
And he's doing great.
He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Dan's got a big, big, big personality.
Do you think of all the boys he's got the best personality?
They all got different. Mike's a critical thinker.
Yeah.
Matt is very charismatic.
He is.
And Dan is kind of a mixture of Matt and Dan. Dan's got his gigantic personality, but he's also much more of a critical thinker. Dan's a lot smarter than you would know because he plays his cards close to the vest.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, Dan's he's born on my birthday, so me and him are like, we're 331 Aries. I tell him, I said that Aries at 331, we got an advantage over these other boys.
Yeah. So you're successful. You consider you're successful as a parent, right? Because your kids.
I consider my children to be my greatest success by far over everything I've ever done. Not even. There's nothing that's even close to what they are. I mean, my businesses and all of that pales compared to them.
That's great. Do you plan to retire? You have an exit strategy for this?
My exit strategy is kind of, I'm in it, with technology and with my children and some of the key people around me. I'm able to, they run these wars from MacDill Air Force Base now over in Tampa. You got the generals are not in Afghanistan; they're at MacDill in Tampa. I'm running the war, but I'm not in the war zone.
Right.
I built some homes out in Maui. I live in Maui in the wintertime, and I'm in New Hampshire in the summertime. I'm here for a few weeks. And then I live at the beach a lot. So I don't consider myself retired.
Okay.
But I'm repurposed. I can do it a different way.
You don't want to retire, right?
Well, Bobby Bowden says once you retire, there's only one more big event. So I don't want to retire, but I feel comfortable with the people that I've got running my different businesses. So but you get tired. I mean, when you get into your 50s, the engine light starts going on. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
The engine light. You ever seen the engine light go on? It's like you don't know what it is, but you got to go figure out what. So the engine light starts going on more. and your drive decreases.
Mm-hmm.
The drive,
Your speed, yeah.
your speed, because no matter what happened, no matter what financial event would happen in my life now, it wouldn't change anything. I mean, there's not a number that could change my life. I got all the houses I need. I got all the cars I need. We don't live big.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess my extravagance is the jet Falcon.
Sure.
But other than that,
You still eat steak at night, right?
or cube steaks, smothered with onions.
Would you invest in a restaurant? Or have you invested in a restaurant?
Yeah,
You have?
I've invested in Wine Bar George out at Disney Springs.
Oh, you did? Yeah? That's great.
But I don't invest. I never invest in. I invest in the
People.
person.
Yeah.
I invested because of George Meliodas.
Mm-hmm.
He turned the California. He made the California Grill. He left and went with Darden.
Mm-hmm.
Created Seasons 52. Disney wanted him back. He needed some capital to do what he needed to do, and we kick ass out there. I've never been.
I'm trying to bring George into my advisory board, actually.
Well, he's
a great guy.
Well, you ought to get Leanne, his wife. They run an incredible business.
Really?
Incredible business. But yeah, my family's been. It's been open several years, but I've never been to it yet.
That's great.
But I'm gonna go.
What's this deal with Arby's? Tell me a little bit of the story with that. I have to hit on that.
With Arby's,
yeah.
I had this idea to do these John and 60s, and I told somebody, I was watching this thing on Facebook called a Pop Watch, and it was just this old man and his grandson driving around, and they were like getting 50, 60,000 followers,
Mm-hmm.
watching them one. I was like, think about that. Think if you could just go into the arena and fill it, and just say and talk to 50,000 people. Would that be worth it? I said, yeah. So I started trying that, and then one of my 60 and 60s, I was taking a drive down the road, and with Alex over there, and he was just asking me questions, and so we came up to an Arby's, and he said, what do you think about that? And I go, I don't know how it stays in business. I've drive by here. I've never seen a car at Arby's. I don't know what the fuck they serve at Arby's. But how is Arby's in business? Because, you go to Chick-fil-A and in Lake Mary, and the line's like stretched down to DeLand. And you go to Arby's,
and it's empty.
And
they're still in business.
So I wondered aloud. I put that out there, and then it went
viral.
It went viral. That talking about Arby's, and then Arby's tweeted back to me, why the hate? and then I was out in Hawaii,
and they send you that suit.
They sent me that meat suit with a hat. And so it comes out to me, the meat suit with that hat, and I open it up, and I'm like, this is fucking gold. And I went and put it on, and I came out, and I said to my wife, I said, look at this, and she's like, oh my God. I said, do you think I should film something in this suit? And she's like, they actually gave me 3 hats, so I put a hat on her too. And she goes, what are you going to film? I said, I don't know, let's just go out here in the front yard. And we went out there with an iPhone, and she filmed me talking. And I looked at it, I'm like, can I put this out? Because it was so outrageous, but it was so outrageous.
People loved it.
Yeah, listen, I was in Hawaii, in Hawaii, I'm in a restaurant, and this waiter comes over and goes, hey, are you the Arby's guy? I'm like, yeah. He goes, I love your TikToks. So people are always talking to me about those TikToks, but the Arby's one was
They never called you back and hired you to be their spokesperson.
No. But I went to Arby's. When did I go to Arby's? I guess I went to Arby's right before we went to New Hampshire to actually get an Arby's.
Did you? Yeah. Was it good?
You know,
it sucked.
I don't like it like I don't like it like. I mean like the roast beef almost seems synthetic. You know, it doesn't. It like Beefy King's got better roast beef.
Yeah, they do.
I don't understand. You know what they're doing over there, but
it's cryovac prepackaged.
Yeah, so I'm like, but they make money. If you look at their stock and look at what they've done, they make money. Mm-hmm. So somebody's sneaking in there and getting it.
It's units. It's the unit. You know, the unit building.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the main concern. That's funny. So we have this thing called This and That. I'm gonna ask you a few things, and you choose which is better: golfing or fishing.
Neither.
Perfect. Four Rivers or Pink Floyd's? You haven't been to Pink Floyd's.
I've never been to Pink Floyd's.
Yeah, we're gonna change that.
I prefer a Bubbaloo's to Four Rivers.
Okay, Bubbaloo's. Interesting.
Sam died this year, I think.
I know he did. He passed away.
Big pig.
He went, the first day that I opened, he went to the restaurant with his Big Pig shirt. And he asked me, "Do you know who I am?" And I go, I don't know who the fuck you are. But obviously it says Big Pig, so you must be in the barbecue business. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like the Four Rivers is too sweet. There's too much sugar.
Too much sugar?
But I prefer Bubbaloo's.
We're going to get you some food.
Yeah.
I want you to try my food.
Yeah.
The vacation to Europe or Asia?
Europe. I mean, I've been to Beijing, and I was like, if I ever get out of here, I'm never fucking coming back. I went there with Grant Hill. We went over there on a business trip, and it's just smog. The people are they're frightened. They're looking down. They're diminished. It's what an autocracy looks like.
It is.
It's the worst.
Hillstone or Eddie V's?
Well,
I've seen you at Hillstone.
I've been to both. Hillstone, my hat's really off to that guy that does it, but boy, it's like the soup. I mean, if you burp at Hillstone, they'll ban you for life. I mean, if you walk in with a hat on, they call the police.
Yeah, they're intense.
They are intense. But I'm fascinated by that guy, and I've taken a page out of his. The CEO interviews every single waitress and waiter himself. The last thing. And so I heard that one time. I'm like, so now before I hire a lawyer,
you interview them.
If it's not me, it's one of my boys or one other person. I want one person to have that last. And by the way, we say no a lot on that last interview. We're like, who the hell? What?
Really?
Because a lot of times people are just trying to fill, hey, we need a lawyer. We just fill the spot. The recruiter's job is to fill the spot. They're not necessarily fill it with the right person, just fill the spot. Mm-hmm. And so, but I would probably give it to Hillstone over Eddie V's because of the consistency
in their product
and the service and the way it's done. And Eddie V's is to me Eddie V's, Capitol Grill, they're all
they're Darden concepts. Yeah,
they're all Darden concepts. Mm-hmm. So
ribs or brisket?
I'd say ribs. But brisket at Bubbaloo's is.
We're gonna change that. We're gonna change that. If we can change that today, we're changing.
Have you ever had the brisket at Bubbaloo's?
I have.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'd say ribs. I'm pretty good at ribs too.
Are you?
Yeah, cooking ribs.
You're not gonna cook ribs anymore after I give you.
I like cooking ribs.
Do you?
Yeah.
That's 6 hours. You like to take those 6 hours?
6 hours. I boil them.
Do you?
For 25 minutes, and then I slow cook them, and then I baste them, and then I make black-eyed peas and wild rice.
Oh, so you like to cook?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
With a cocktail.
The last one we put is Pod Daddy versus Pod Daddy. So they started calling me the Pod Daddy. John, if you have one piece of advice for a guy like me that's trying to build something, what would you say?
At the end of the day, done is better than perfect. If you got to be perfect, if it's got to be perfect, you're not going to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you got to be 100%, you're not going to do anything. I would say at the end of the day, what matters most is doing what you say you're going to do. When it's all said and done, reputation always comes back to make you or break you. And I would just say, be a good person, do what you say you're going to do. Don't lie, don't cheat, but also, there's nothing wrong with ambition. There's nothing wrong with wanting to do something huge. I mean, it's normal in many ways.
Yeah. Some people see it as a negative.
Some people see it as a negative, but those are vision blockers.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you it's a negative. There's nothing wrong with it. And so I would just tell you to follow your dreams and to grow or die. And that in life, really nothing is about today. Everything's about tomorrow. But most people don't see it that way. Most people see everything is about today and not tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have your focus on the future can be great.
I agree. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.